Hey, this is part 2 of our 4-part video series about the 12 tenets of neurotransformational coaching. It's really about how to be a world-class coach and change people's lives, which is your best marketing asset. In this video, we're going to do 3 more tenets, and the third tenet is one of the most profound and important concepts in all of personal development. So watch the whole thing. As we go through this conversation, engage, please ask questions, give your own examples, disagree with whatever Michelle says, or however else you want to engage. Let's have a conversation. So yesterday, or sometime other than, what was 2 days ago? Whenever it was sometime before now. We did part 1 of the conversation of the 12 tenets of neurotransformation. Today, we're probably going to do the next 3. And the third one is just massive. It's one of the most critical components of personal development in general and coaching specifically. So everything is about coaching. Talked a little bit in the last video about our main purpose as a company is to really help coaches get the certainty that's required to build a coaching business. And if you don't have certainty, then none of the marketing systems are going to work. So we really deep dive into how to change people's lives and how to build your certainty in yourself, in your skills, in your seekers, in the process, in the outcomes, all of that stuff. And then marketing, just like icing on a cake, can actually work. But you have to have the foundations down. And that's what this 4-part series is really about. The foundations of neurotransformational coaching. And I think a lot of people, I think one of the biggest reasons that people who do not succeed in coaching don't succeed is because they don't ever really fully understand coaching. They don't fully understand the essence of coaching or the outcomes, or they haven't experienced it. And it's, it's like trying to, it's not like it's exactly, it's trying to sell a product that you don't fully believe in. And not enough people dissect and discuss and explore what coaching actually is at a deep, deep level. And without that, there's just going to be too many doubts and too many insecurities and too many reasons to question everything. So that's why we teach what we teach and how we teach, and the length of the sessions at which we teach, because you have to understand the content, and you never be able to control anything you don't understand. And when you're coaching people, there are always going to be variables that are unpredictable. And if you don't understand what you're doing, and you don't understand human behavior, and you don't understand beliefs, and you don't understand how traumas are created and avoided and protected, and you don't understand sabotage, you don't understand all of these conflicts internally, then it's going to be impossible to make pivots in the moment when you need to, because you don't understand the essence of the work. And I just see that over and over and over again. It's just been confirmed, years and years and years through so many people. And so that's why we teach, the depth that we teach. So having said that, let's jump into these 3 tenets. Is there anything you want to add before we dive in here?
With what you were just saying, the image that I got is it's like, it would be like if I got directions in terms of how to get into your neighborhood and come to your house, but I didn't have directions on how to get from my home in another state across the country to that house. And so many of us are looking for like the last step details. What do I do when I get there? And not understanding everything at the very, very beginning. And it's not that those parts of the directions are helpful and necessary, but it's not really relevant until you make the first part of the journey.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons that a lot of people struggle with any kind of mastery level learning, or really anything that takes a long time, is because over the course of the last couple of decades, I think, and specifically over the last 5 to 10 years, our consumption patterns have been flattened so much. And we're just constantly thumbing through our feeds, and we're like addicted at a a societal level to short videos, short, mindless, don't have to think videos that we can just share. It'll cause a laugh. We can be scrolling on the toilet or waiting in line or at a stoplight or whatever. And our consumption has become so shallow, but you'll never achieve anything deep with shallow consumption, obviously, right? You'll never achieve deep confidence with shallow consumption. And it's difficult to resist the shallow consumption habits because they're built into the algorithms. These platforms are spending literally billions and billions of dollars to figure out how they can keep us wide and shallow as humans. And so they're studying our brains and they're trying to figure out what causes us to just stay on their platforms and just keep scrolling or get angry at each other. Like, it's all built into the system. And so we have to actively swim against the current. We have to actively swim upstream if we want an outcome that most people won't get, especially nowadays, because it requires us to slow down and go deep dive. And we'll never, I mean, I personally just won't ever play the shallow game because I can't sleep at night, telling people that, you can survive the ocean. Let me just put these little swimmies on you and, give you a little taste of the water. And, you just tell you that you know how to swim now. And then you go out and you drown in the ocean. So, and our clients deserve more, right? So if you're trying to shortcut your way or hack your way to some kind of certification or some kind of facade, or it's like, if you're trying to figure out how to paint the outside of your house to get somebody to buy your house, but there's nothing inside and there's a bunch of termites and all that kind of stuff, you don't deserve a buyer. And I really think that that's the case in coaching. Yeah. People are, so I'm saying that from like a philosophical place, but also from a strategic place. So philosophically, if you're putting yourself out there as an agent of change and transformation, you're telling people you can help them change their life, and you don't put in the work, then you don't deserve the client. And it would be a disservice. It'd be like trying to rush through medical school and then just try to get a bunch of people on your surgery table because they'll pay a lot of money. You're going to kill a lot of people, right? But strategically, to run with that last analogy, if you know ways to get people on the surgery table, but you don't feel confident as a surgeon, your ego will actually sabotage you to try to make sure people don't get on your table because you don't actually want to kill people. And I know that's like a morbid example, but in coaching, if you lack the confidence in being able to do the work, there is a mechanism in your mind that will actually sabotage you if you think that you will hurt people or you actually just won't help people if they say yes to you. So you'll actively sabotage yourself against your success the lower your confidence is in doing the work. So we're not just talking about this from a philosophical, moral perspective, although I do firmly believe that it's fraudulent to try to sell coaching if you haven't actively become a product of coaching. Right. But strategically, it's nearly impossible, just energetically, because you won't allow yourself to get people on your operating table, quote unquote, in your coaching programs if you don't believe that you'll really, truly be able to help them out. And we've just seen that time and time and time and time again. And yet so many people are just trying to, overcompensate for the lack of confidence with better strategy.
But then protect their clients from the lack of certainty that they know is inside of them or not inside of them. Yeah.
Yeah. And people can tell, and in today's world, one of the things that I think most people don't fully understand the gravity of is that in today's world, our bullshit radars are not just higher than they've ever been, like in terms of being able to smell anything that looks suspicious or just doesn't look aligned. But I think our bullshit radars are actually, it's kind of like having a false positive or a false negative, sort of. Like we are by default trying to sift out and trying to find the scams and trying to find the things that are potential time wasters or money wasters. And there's a piece of our mind, like we would rather actually give up opportunities that would be positive for us to avoid the failures that would be negative for us. And I don't know if that's making as clear sense coming out of, you know, out of my mouth as it is in my head. And I just like, we've early on in the internet days, we didn't have those filters up because we hadn't been scammed the way that pretty much all of us have at some point in time. And so it's kind of like, you know, looks like a duck, smells like a duck. Nowadays, if there's anything that smells inauthentic, I think most people actually default their judgment towards this is probably a scam.
Yeah.
Like it's actually not even true. It's a lie. And I'm not going to risk my time or my money or my energy anymore. And so I think people are much more protective nowadays than we've ever been in the past. And so if you just show up, and I would imagine like all of you can just check in with yourself if that's true for you. I know it's true for me for sure.
Yeah.
Like I default, it's like you have to prove to me, if you send me an email or a text or whatever, you have to prove to me that it's not just like all these other things that I think it's like. And so immediately, if my mind has seen what you're offering before, here's another piece that's so critical. If my mind has seen what you're offering before, if this is just a slightly different version of something I've seen before, and I think it's a watered down product, like, because it's nothing different.
Right.
And now I know I'm more cynical when it comes to the coaching industry because I've just been in it for so long, right? And so my bar is higher than most people's,
right,
and more cynical than most people's probably. But at a neurological level, whenever the brain has seen something before, it immediately finds the folder that it can put this into so it doesn't have to explore every new thing that it comes across. And so the reason this is so important for all of you that are trying to build a business, if you show up as a different version of a package that most people have seen before, you won't be intriguing. You won't be interesting, and you probably won't be attractive because the brain has seen it before. And yet what so many people are doing in the coaching industry specifically is following the leader. Like whatever you follow, you diminish. If you are a follower, if you're following something, you're diminishing your product. You're diminishing your impact because you're showing up as a watered down version of something that people have seen before. And so this is one of the most critical components that is a big, big challenge for a lot of people, because being authentic and being vulnerable and being real is scary to a lot of people, right? Saying, here's me and I can help you and I'm going to do everything that I possibly can. And I'm actually different than everybody else, because all of us have been hurt for standing out at some point in time in our lives.
Yeah.
And then here we are from a business perspective, we're saying, you know what you need to do? Stand out.
As you are.
Exactly. As you are. Right. That zit on your nose, get a close up of it.
Yeah. Bring it in, baby.
Don't cover it up. Yeah. Get a close up of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's actually going to be more intriguing. So, and all of this fits into the same conversation. Like you understanding the work that you're doing will allow you to put your own spin on it. I want for all of you and everybody that goes through our programs, I don't want anybody to be a watered down version of me or a watered down version of you or a watered down version of anybody else. I want everybody to deep dive into this work so that at some point in time, everybody feels like they have their own work. Like this is my work, not my version of what somebody else taught me, but my work. And you'll never do that in a shallow way. So with all that being said, let's dive into some tenets.
Perfect.
The next tenet, and these are not sequential in the way that we're presenting them to you. All of them are the most important. So the most important tenet is whichever one we're talking about, because that's the way they made it to the 12 tenets list. A tenet is like an extremely important ingredient. So this next tenet is to focus on implementation and measurement. One of the things that happens with transformational coaching is that it's easy for us to play in the nebulous world of feelings and intangible woo-woo clouds. And that's cool. It's fun for a lot of people. It feels safe for a lot of people. But if you're going to help somebody change their life, they need some measurement that their life is being changed. So one of the challenges that I've had, throughout my career is to make sure that I'm helping people, and myself too, but specifically with my clients, helping people measure their progress, helping people put tangible metrics into the intangible world. And sometimes we can just take a look at how we're feeling. Like if we ask somebody, are they happier today than they were yesterday? That is a really difficult question to answer because yesterday's gone and our memory of yesterday is going to be a function of how we're feeling today anyway. So we can't really trust just nebulous assessments of, are you happier? Do you feel better? Do you feel more confident? But if you ask somebody about where a certain feeling shows up in their body, and we do this a lot with the work that we do, and especially the negative feelings. If you ask somebody what a negative feeling feels like in their body and they kind of light it up and they can identify that there's tightness in certain muscles or certain areas, or there's, some kind of activation somewhere. And then you do a coaching process with them and 30 minutes later, their physical body has shifted. So that thing is not there anymore, or it has changed, or it's, gotten cooler or warmer, or it's moved, whatever. That's a measurable change to feelings. And feelings are generally immeasurable experiences, right? So that's one aspect of this. But the other aspect of this is to make sure that when you coach, you are focused on helping people implement whatever it is that you're helping them shift, so that you can also test it, right? Because if something's not implemented, then it's like it never happened, right? So if you do a coaching process with somebody, the way to find out if it works is to test it. So, let's say you're talking about some feeling that your client has, towards their father-in-law, and they can, you do whatever process you have with them. And the only real way to test if that feeling has shifted is probably like go have a conversation, if that's something that's possible. Or, write a letter or do something and let's put it in motion. Let's implement the work that we did and let's just see. And it's really important that we give our clients some implementable, measurable process so that they can feel progress. And I think what most of us are doing most of the time is we're just informing people. And if you think about information, you break that word down, it's in formation. So it's like you're keeping people in the same formation that they already were in. But if you implement the information, now you can have movement, right? And so we really want to focus on transformation. How can you change somebody's experience? And the only way that's ever going to happen is to implement the work. Now, going back to the conversation we were having earlier, most people are having these really shallow experiences of information consumption and a bunch of experiences. So we're just consuming so many things from so many different sources. And it's one of the reasons why we don't get anywhere, because the more sources that we're consuming, the less we're implementing any of them. And so a lot of us are just putting a bunch of information into our brains, and we might toe dip a little bit to just barely, try something on, but we're so quick to go to something else because there's no commitment. in the shallow consumption of information. And if you really want to help your clients change their lives, one of the things you might have to do is help them to restrict the constant consumption, or just restrict the distractions that they are going through. And then you can put some tracking mechanisms in place, depending on what it is we're talking about. You can actually have them create a spreadsheet at times, or just check in the morning, or check in at night, or something that gives them a sense of progress. And then, of course, we're talking about goals, mapping out milestones to get their goals and the exact things that, that you have to actually put in motion to take shots at the targets. That's all really, really important stuff. And what I find is that most of us just tend to go to one end of the spectrum or the other. Like a lot of coaches just only focus on what to do. So go make these phone calls, get this goal, make this money. Or other coaches just focus on what to feel. So let's dive in and let's do some trauma work and let's change some beliefs and all this kind of stuff. But neither one of those extremes without the other one is going to work.
Right.
Very significantly. And we got to have both of them. So
yeah,
make sure that you're helping your clients implement and measure. What do you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, really just what comes up for me inside of this conversation is that and I'm a big feeler, right? Like I have big feelings and big emotions, and that is easy for me to access. And so if you're working with somebody that's like that, it's what I think about for myself is like, sometimes I can get more in like the kind of nebulous, right? That's the word I think you used earlier, Sean, like in like, oh, this feels so good up here. And I can feel like I'm doing something. And I have to remind myself, we got to come back to earth. Like we have to come back, like this body on this planet at this time actually needs to get this into action. If we want to take that from like an idea, an aha, a really beautiful experience, and actually like the way we get it truly in our body, the way we embody the transformation, the shifts that can happen is through that implementation.
Yeah, you mentioned aha. I think we put too much value on ahas. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with ahas. Like, yeah, we need realizations and epiphanies and ahas, or whatever word we're going to use for those connecting of the dots and all that stuff. But just to put it bluntly, if you have an aha, nothing has changed.
Right.
You just now have awareness.
Mm-hmm.
But an awareness is not a breakthrough. And I think that's another watered down word. We'll go on a rant on that at some point, probably. But an awareness is more of just an invitation to do the work. But without the work, there can't be a breakthrough.
Right. And
there can't really truly be any kind of transformation. So that's why we always have to focus on implementation. And it is safe to just stay in the nebulous, woo-woo, warm fuzziness of the work. And it's easy as coaches to feel safe just doing that work with our clients. But it's a disservice.
Yeah.
All right. Next one is to be present and connected. And this is really an energetic one for you as the coach. When you're doing this work, one of the most important things you can do is simply just be present with your clients. And when you're present, you are going to be opened up to more downloads in the moment. You're going to ask better questions. You're actually going to activate your wisdom more when you're present. We all, I believe, have a lot more wisdom than we consciously think we do. And I think that's because our brains have like this unconscious vault, and we don't need to open that vault until we do. And when we're in our conscious mind and our ego's in charge, and we're trying to predict the future, and we're trying to figure out the answers to questions that haven't been asked, or the questions that were just asked so that we can look good as a coach and all that stuff, we're not opening the vault of wisdom. Our ego is just trying to stay in charge and stay in control. And we actually have a lot less control the more that we try to rigidly hold on to control. And presence is just one of the energetic ways to stay connected, not just to the client, but to your own wisdom. And I know you would agree with this, Michelle, for your own experience. There's so many times when I don't know what to say, and I'll just open my mouth and push out some air, and some words come out. And they're not always the most profound, but a lot of times they're like unconscious, like just trust, whatever your curiosity tells you to ask. And without presence, that's virtually impossible, because we kind of shut down that channel. We shut down the wisdom to a large degree. And I think most of us are trying to maintain whatever our self-image is in life the majority of the time. And that's always going to make us a bad coach. And specifically what that looks like is, when you're listening to your client, are you listening to respond, or are you listening to understand? And most of us listen to respond just because that's the way we're programmed. And we also think that whoever has the answers to the questions is the smart one. We were taught that in school. We've been taught that through society. And that's just not true when it comes to coaching at this level, right? Like this kind of coaching. So the best coaches are not the ones with the best answers. The best coaches are the ones with the best questions. And the best questions are always going to come from being present and connected to yourself, connected to your client, connected to the words they're saying, connected to the words they're not saying. One of the analogies that we use all the time is the iceberg image. And I'm sure most of you have seen this, where the majority of the iceberg is below water. The majority of masterful coaching is below water. It's not in anything that anybody can observe. It's in all the things that the coach is observing and assessing that doesn't get said, either by the client or by the coach. And that can only happen if you're energetically present and connected to everything that's going on in the moment.
Yeah. And it's okay if you fall out of presence, right? If you notice that and then need to bring yourself back.
What did you say?
But
Oh, I wasn't.
Were you not present?
No. Were you talking?
I was. Yeah. What I was thinking when you were speaking, Sean, is that we take ourselves out of the coaching session, right? In those moments, if I'm not present, if I'm thinking about like what I'm going to say or what I'm going to say next, I've left, right? Like Michelle has exited the building. And
Right.
so then in that moment, if I'm not there, I actually can't be connected to you. So I don't literally have no access to those downloads. And so this is important for us to start to recognize. I think, when we mentor people inside of our program, sometimes I'll let coaches know, it's normal that it happens, right? It's normal that you maybe fall out of presence, or you get distracted or you get into your head and you start thinking about something. And if you can just bring awareness to it, it can actually help you bring yourself back and remind you that right here with this person now is the most effective and influential place you can be as a coach, especially as a transformational coach.
Yeah. And it is a really good point, because we, as humans, we're wanderers. Our brains are going to wander. Our brains are going to hear something and then think of something and then assess how hungry we are and then wonder where we're going to get food. And, remember the time we had food poisoning, and then worry about something that might happen later today, because that's the way our brains operate. Right. So it's virtually going to be impossible to stay 100% connected all the time in all your coaching sessions, because you're a wanderer. But it's like dancing between, the wander and the wonder, right? Like you can,
I love that.
We're all wandering while we're wondering, and wondering is actually one of the best ways to coach, because that's exploration and that's curiosity and that's, interest. And those are really, really powerful traits. But when we get into that place, our brain also wanders and it might leave the conversation. And that's why, if we're connected to ourselves, we'll be able to tell when we've left, left the conversation. That's okay. We don't need to beat ourselves up. Come back. And there's nothing wrong with asking the client what they just said. It's kind of like remembering people's names. Studies have consistently shown, everything that I've seen, that if you meet somebody and they tell you their name within the first 5 seconds, nearly everybody will forget the name. Because the way the human brain works, we are assessing so many things in the first 5 seconds, so that when they tell us their name, we're not curious about that yet, right? First, we want to know, are you dangerous? Like, do you have any weapons on you?
Do you look
Do
like
I know you
someone
from
I know?
anywhere?
Yeah.
Like, all the things that we're assessing with this new relationship and this new animal that's in front of us. And like, usually we immediately forget the name. And that's why they say, you know, ask again or say it a couple times so you know, make a connection to it and so forth. But I think a lot of us beat ourselves up if we forget the name because, oh, you know, I shouldn't forget the name. That's how rude and whatever. The other interesting thing is I've personally never been offended if somebody goes, wait, what's your name again? I forgot your name. Yeah, of course. Yeah, my name's Sean, right? I've never been offended, yet I usually don't want to ask because I don't want to offend anybody, or I don't want to just be that person. So it's just one of those elements that, like, this is just the way the human brain works. And so if you exit the conversation a little bit, there's nothing wrong with just asking your client, you know, wait, can you repeat that? Like, nobody's going to get irritated if you're asking them to repeat important things or asking them to go further into something. You know, now if you're being distracted and, you know, you're shopping and scanning your food items on a coaching call, that's something slightly different. But just the natural, you know, in and out of a conversation, yeah, that's going to happen. As
I'm so sorry I wasn't listening. I'm in a really good part in this book. Can you repeat what you just said again?
Exactly. All right. So the final tenet we're going to talk about on this call is the separation between person and performer. And this is such a monstrous topic that we'll probably do a whole video on it. And I know we've done whole videos on it before, or, you know, much bigger chunks of time than what we're going to spend on it now. But the overall concept is that most of us have been programmed to equate our value as a person with our value as a performer. Meaning, if we're succeeding, we feel better about ourselves as a person. If we're failing, we feel worse about ourselves as a person. Now, there's nothing wrong with feeling better with success than with failure. And I think we all like to win. But there's a fine line between this is enjoyable because I'm winning and I'm valuable when I'm winning. And that distinction is so deeply rooted for most people, and it's everywhere in society, that it's difficult for us to actually recognize, if this is a new concept, that we do have that connection. But then it can be really difficult to separate that connection, because what performance matters to us, or what it means to us, or who told us that we need to perform better, and all the things that are unique to each individual person need to be explored. But most people really need to detach their value as a person from their value as a performer. And then here's the great news. When you detach those things, your performance will go up because the pressure will go down. When your pressure to perform goes down, your performance almost without question goes up. And that's why we need to detach those things. And it's a deeper unconscious attachment for most of us. And the reason that most of us don't take the risks that are required to build a successful business or to achieve our goals are because the risks are too personally emotional or emotionally personal. So if I take a risk and I fail and I feel like a failure as a person, then the next time I have an opportunity to take a risk, and I know that if I fail, I'm going to feel deflated as a human, as a person. And it might turn into depression, and it might turn into sabotage, and it might turn into drinking, or it might turn into, you know, whatever our addictions are to soothe that negative feeling. We're going to try to protect ourselves from going down that negative road by not trying. Because trying is now dangerous.
That's right.
If the risk is personal. So as soon as we can disconnect the personal risk from the performance risk, now there's really no reason for us to not take shots at anything. Like if you think about it, there's no reason for us to not try anything, especially emotional stuff. Like go after your goals, ask people out on dates, ask people for money, like, you know, go get clients, just try things, answer questions, like try to play instruments, try to sing, try to dance. Like there's no reason for us to not take shots,
Right.
unless there's an emotional risk associated to the failure. And once upon a time, we didn't have that. You know, if you watch little kids trying to learn how to do the things that we're all trying to learn how to do when we're 1 year old, 2 years old, they don't have those personal connections yet. And that's why little kids are fearless, because we don't have the destruction yet associated to taking risks. And it becomes really frustrating as adults, because we know we shouldn't have these fears. We know we should just go for it anyway. But when you know you should do something and you're not doing it, but you don't know why you're not doing it, you don't know that there's like a hidden anchor that's actually holding your boat from going anywhere. If you don't know that there's the anchor there, or you don't know how to lift it up, then you can get really good at driving boats, and you can get all the certifications and all that stuff, and the anchor won't let you move. So it can get really frustrating when intellectually we know all the answers, but emotionally we don't have permission to take risks. And the reason is this: it's virtually 100% of the time, it's because the person and the performer are married together at an identity level, and we need to detach from them.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think
so your clients have taught you, right?
Yeah. This is an invitation to kind of check in with yourself as a coach, right? In terms of how you're relating, right, to your performance as a coach, and what you may or may not be making that mean about you as a person. And also in the context of these tenets of neurotransformational coaching, this is something that is operating not in everybody, but in so many people.
Yeah.
And I would say from my experience personally, is for those of you that don't know a lot about my story, that the comment Sean made a moment ago about me just recognizing this from clients. I mean, this is like my story. And it was not something that I recognized. I didn't know that I had the connection. And so inside of the work of coaching, really being able to see this, as you were just explaining, Sean, is so good and liberating for our clients. Uncomfortable potentially at times, but I didn't understand what was going on with me as a client, right? I didn't understand what was going on with me because, to use your analogy, I was a hella good boat driver.
Yeah.
I was so good. Like I was the best boat driver. And I didn't understand why I kept just going in circles or just revving the engine and then burning out the engine. And I kept thinking that there was a default with me, something that I had to learn how to perform better, right? I didn't understand that there was a connection, and that in every action that I took, my self-worth, my self-esteem, my value as a person was also in that. And so one of my, and I have a lot of favorite quotes, but one of my favorite quotes of yours, Sean, is that when we remove the emotional risk of failure, we remove the emotional risk of trying. And the way that our brain works is it'll manifest a lot of those emotional risks into like physical fears and things that we can convince ourselves that we really, really should be concerned about, or something we really have to study harder, or something we really need to learn better. When in reality, like if there wasn't an emotional risk, there wouldn't be the resistance.
Yeah. And this is a really, it's just such a perfect concept to explain one of the reasons why coaching doesn't work for a lot of people. Because the anchor under the water, and it's literally under the boat that you can't see, is the reason that people are not making the changes in their life, or they're not creating the success they want to create. It's because there's a boat, there's an anchor. The person usually can't see it. Now, if the coach also doesn't know that there's an anchor under the boat, then the coach will just teach him how to drive better. And so it's so critical to understand that if a human is not succeeding, and specifically they're not taking action, this is why. In my experience, I'm going to make a pretty bold universal statement, and you know that I never make universal statements because universal statements are always wrong. So, however, in all of my experience, if somebody knows what they should be doing and they're not, this is a problem. And it's probably the problem. Because there's no other reason, right? You know the actions you should take and you're not taking them. Why would the human mind, who has that has the ability to cause us to do anything, why would the human mind have a goal and have a desire and have a game plan and then not follow it? This just doesn't make any sense. Like, why would we want to be happy as a person, want to experience certain things, want to have more money, want to be successful, and we have a game plan and not follow the game plan? It does not make sense unless you understand a deep concept like this. So if you as a coach don't understand concepts like this, you can only try to motivate people. But the motivation above water will only never overpower the anchor below water. Only never. Now, if you have an anchor, the boat can go in circles, right? There's a little bit of room for the boat to operate. But it'll never roam free because there's an anchor. And perfectionism is caused by this problem. Procrastination is caused by this problem. Time management is usually caused by this problem. Limiting beliefs are quite often caused by this problem, right? So if you see that all these fruits on the tree are rotten and you don't understand the root that led to all of it, then you really can't fully help people, you know? And we can actually do more harm because we can just get them to rev the engine on the boat and eventually blow up, you know, eventually get frustrated or actually do damage. So this is just a super clear, hopefully, and clean explanation or application rather of some unconscious fundamentals that we have to understand about human behavior. And if we don't understand the roots of human behavior, then we're not going to be able to help people truly change. So I hope that lands for all of you, and everything that we talk about applies to your clients. It applies to you as a coach helping your clients. It applies to you as a coach trying to build a business, because this is all human behavior. And that's the cool thing about this kind of work, is that wherever the humans are, this applies. And if you dive deep into transformational work, especially neurotransformational work, then you could go anywhere with it. You're going to be a better relationship coach. You're going to be a better health and nutrition coach. You're going to be a better financial coach. You're going to be a better anything. You're going to be a better sports coach. You're going to be a better coach if you understand human behavior, because these are the fundamentals that explain why people do things. And if you don't know why somebody's doing it, how are you going to help them stop? Now, let's be honest, you know, and I think the personal development world and coaching specifically, unfortunately, and I'm not trying to, you know, throw shade at anybody in particular. Everybody's doing the best they can, but this industry is full of a lot of advice or suggestions, but not a whole lot of deep rooted change. And so for any of you that want to be somebody who can produce deep rooted change, then you have to understand the roots. And the cool thing is everybody can learn it. That's the cool thing. Everybody can learn it.
That's right.
Because you're going to want to. You're going to learn about yourself in the process, right? We are leading into an ECCP event. That's our flagship certification event as a company. And it's a 5-day deep dive immersion. If you could imagine spending 5 days inside this content and doing exercises and understanding the principles and watching demos and being coached personally and practice coaching other people personally and all that stuff that happens at a live event. When you are really playing the mastery level game, then check out ECCP. If that's something that you know will help your confidence and help your certainty, and you know there's some skills that you could use, or early on we were talking about how your sabotage or your lack of certainty will sabotage all of your marketing efforts, but only all the time. So one of the best things you can do if you're not getting the success is increase your certainty. And once you have a certainty increased at a certain level that it becomes a conviction, then the marketing strategies become less important. Your conviction is the most important thing in building a business. And most people just never get there. And they don't get there because they don't understand the process. They're not a product of the product, all the reasons. So ECCP is a program. It's all online, and you can join from the comfort of wherever your home is, wherever you are in the world. And I've been doing it for many, many years. We've done online for 3 years. So it produces results, and it'll produce your certainty and confidence and understanding of this work so that you can produce results for other people. And that's the most important marketing component, success component that you can have, and fulfillment. I mean, that's the cool thing, is like you can learn how to fundamentally change people's lives. And you can do it on a plane, you know, and you can do it in your coaching sessions, obviously, but you can do it everywhere else too. And it's super, super powerful to learn this work. So if you want more information, you can go to coachshansmith.com/ECCP. It stands for Elite Coaching Certification Program. If you have any questions, you can ask right here on wherever you're watching this video. You can drop a comment, or you can email us, or you can catch us on social media, wherever you can find us, and we'll answer whatever questions that we possibly can. And if you want some support, if you want to ask any individual questions about your journey, about whether ECCP is good for you, or anything else, like, you know, you want to tell us where you are and what you're thinking about, or where you got certified, or what you've done in the past, or any way that we can support you, we offer free consultation calls. You can go to coachshansmith.com/book-my-call to get some support one-on-one individually. Well, if you like this video and you want to continue the discussion and hear about the next 3 tenets, check out that video right there. It's part 3. These are big, big conversations that we're having when we're talking about transformation. And as best we can, we want to at least leave the client on a note that lets them know we're doing good work, we're making progress, and there's more.